University for hosting us here in the Baker Building, and we appreciate each of you for taking the time to be engaged in the democratic process. I'd like to thank our reporters that are all here, by show of hands, reporters, newsroom, Fort Worth Report staff, thank you all for being here. We are live streaming tonight as well, so fingers crossed, Forrest and team back there, everything's going well. It'll be posted to our website for anybody that would want to view it later. At the Fort Worth Report, our mission is simple but vital. We exist to provide local journalism that informs, equips, and empowers the people of Tarrant County. As a nonprofit, we do not advocate for parties or candidates. Our role is to ensure voters have access to credible information and meaningful opportunities to hear directly from those seeking public office. That's what tonight is all about. So on March 3rd, voters, all of you in this room, will make important decisions that will shape the future of our county and our state. This evening, you'll hear from candidates in several of the most closely watched and highly contested Republican primary races, including Tarrant County Commissioner Precinct 2, Texas State Representative District 91, Texas State Representative District 98, Texas State Representative District 94. And while we'd like to host forums for every race, time simply does not allow it. We welcome all candidates to attend tonight. However, in keeping with the event guidelines and university policy, no campaign materials may be distributed inside of the building. Tomorrow evening, February 12th, we'll host the Democratic forums in this very room, the same time, same location. We invite you back for that as well. We're proud to provide equal opportunities for candidates and voters across party lines because civic engagement works best when it's open, transparent, and accessible. Tonight's forum will be moderated by two of our outstanding members of our newsroom, Cecil Lenzen, our government accountability reporter, and Drew Shaw, our local government accountability reporter. Their role, as always, is to ask fair questions that focus on the issues that matter most to the residents of Tarrant County. We ask our audience to be respectful of all candidates and fellow attendees, so please hold your applause until appropriate times. And again, please silence your phones and allow each candidate the opportunity to speak and uninterrupted. Civil exchange of ideas strengthens our community, reflects the values of informed citizenship. So thank you again for being here. Your presence tonight demonstrates something very important to all of us. Democracy depends on participation. An informed voter is an empowered voter. We're honored to help facilitate that process. So now I'll turn it over to Janet Matern, President of League of Women's Voters of Tarrant County.
Hello, thank you for that introduction, and you stole all my fine lines that I like to talk about. Welcome to the candidate forum for the Republican primary. And one thing, first, let me introduce League of Women Voters of Tarrant County. I want to thank our wonderful volunteers because the League is not only nonpartisan, nonprofit, we are all volunteer. There's not one paid person. We are, unless you call the sweat and tears that we have normally, that's, but anyhow, we do all the work in the League here in Tarrant County. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy, and that's why we are here today, because we want to empower voters. We want to educate voters about the candidates that voters do have choices. And now you can only vote in one primary. You cannot vote in both the Republican and the Democratic, only one in the state of Texas. So we welcome you all to attend not only tonight's forum, tomorrow's forum, and let's see, is there something else? Oh, one thing that is very important, we want to make sure all our candidates are civil towards each other and that we do not have any remarks that are critical of either any current candidate, current office holders, or current candidates. So let's be civil and talk about the positive that we can provide to the community. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Janet. And so with that, why don't we go ahead and have the first panel come on up and take your seats, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Good evening. My name is Drew Shaw. I'm the Government Accountability Reporter with the Fort Worth Report. And tonight we are going to have two panels. Our first panel will feature GOP candidates from several races, including the Tarrant County Commissioners Precinct 2 and Texas House Districts 91 and 98. Just a few housekeeping notes. Candidates will have 90 seconds each for their opening and closing remarks, and 60 seconds to answer each question. Our volunteers with the League of Women Voters will signal when your time is at 30 seconds, and then when it's run out. Candidates, please be sure to speak in the microphone so everyone can hear you. And thank you all for being here tonight. So we're just going to open it up with introductions. So introduce yourself and why you're running. And Mr. Morris, we'll start with you.
This is my minute and a half.
Yes, you have 90 seconds.
Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you to the Tarrant County League of Women Voters. Thank you to Fort Worth Report and to SteerFW for hosting all of us tonight. Really appreciate the opportunity to sit down in front of voters in Tarrant County and to share, well, all three of us, I think it's a great opportunity for us to share our perspective and our opinions. I'm running not because I'm a father, a husband, a business owner, and a neighbor. I'm not a career politician. I'm running for House District 91 because for me and my family, the public safety debate is not political, it's personal. In the spring of 2022, my life changed forever at a Dallas Mavericks game. My then 15-year-old daughter, shortly before halftime, went to the bathroom and never came back. A two-time criminal had targeted her, persuaded her to leave the game, and she was missing for 10 days before being recovered in Oklahoma. This experience opened my eyes. I witnessed the heroism of our first responders, and I saw gaps in our system. My wife and I took action. We started a nonprofit for survivors of human trafficking, and we testified before the Texas Senate Committee, helping pass a law to give law enforcement more tools. It was there in Austin that I realized real change happens there when it comes to our families. I'm done being a spectator, and while the hardworking Texans are squeezed and our families are put at risk, that's why I'm running for House District 91.
Great, and Ms. Suri, we'll go with you. Can everybody hear okay, or do we need to just play some musical chairs with the microphones?
Okay.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Lucila Seri. I'm a naturalized citizen originally from Argentina, and I'm running for County Commissioner Precinct 2 because I think that we can do better. There's many things at the county level that I think we should be improving, starting with citizens getting their voice back. We need to be sure that we have smart spending, as we have a lot of private-public partnerships, but we need to evaluate if those are actually helping the county or if they're a result of other circumstances. Then I have been a big advocate for election integrity. I know that many people don't trust the elections from both sides, and I think that we should be looking at that. I'm not saying to change the system, but I think we should be looking to be sure that people are certain that our election process is free and fair and following the law. In addition, there are certain circumstances with public health that have been happening in our county, and people are ignoring them. And I think that we should be looking into what is going on. Why do we have so many issues with public health? Why, when we have the means and we are already funding several institutions that are supposed to take care of that. So, thank you.
Thank you, and Ms. Wilcox.
Good evening. My name is Zdenka. As you can imagine, it's hard to pronounce, so that's why Z, Wilcox. At least my last name is easier. It seems like most of us here are not really politicians, so we do actually still value speaking to the public and voters. That's why we're here, and take the time, because it is important. All of us believe that what we're trying to do is not easy, and it has not been easy, but it's important. And we're all motivated by a personal story. Mine is, I came to the United States at the age of 21 from a communist country. I survived communism. I grew up extremely poor, the oldest of 6, and I came to this country with a dream of freedom. I believe in the Constitution of the United States as the best and the most precious thing we have in this country. During COVID, unfortunately, I've seen Constitution become very optional, and I didn't like it. Then I've gone through domestic violence, and then I've seen all kinds of rights, my personal rights, being violated. Then surviving that, I was thrown in family courts, and I've seen some madness and abuse of judicial powers in our court system. So here I am, because I believe that someone's got to go in Austin and look at these issues and try to make a change.
Thank you. Jumping right into it, our first question. In both the Texas legislature and Tarrant County, there has been concern over the past year about how new voting maps could impact communities of color. What are your plans on the new maps, or what are your thoughts on the new maps and their effect on Tarrant County? And how do you plan to ensure you are representing all of your constituents? We will start with Mr. Morris.
Wow, you guys come out swinging, don't you? That is a great question. Thank you. I know that lines being redrawn, redistricting has been a hot topic over the last couple of years, and I know that it has spread from Tarrant County and spread across the state and across the country. And you've seen redistricting battles seemingly popping up in all parts in many states. How we balance that, I do believe that it's important to keep in mind when you are elected, you do represent every person in your district. In your congressional district, your Senate district, your House district, whether you're a city councilman or a school board trustee, you're representing every person in that district. And that is absolutely something that I value and I respect, and it is not something that I would take lightly. And that is absolutely something that I will make sure that as an elected official, I maintain that ability to talk to all of the constituents across the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Suri?
Actually, I think that I was the only Republican in 2 of the public hearings about the Tarrant County redistricting, speaking against redistricting, because I don't agree with this mid-decade redistricting, more when their excuse was the population has changed so much since 2020, but we're still using 2020 data. I'm a facts and data kind of person, so I cannot understand justifying an effort because trends have changed on who lives here when we don't have up-to-date data to do that redistricting. I also think that if redistricting was needed because to represent better the number of the population, it should have been done different. More like we could look at 30 and I-35. There's different options that we could have followed and make it less in your face political gerrymandering. So if I'm in office and I'm there by 2030, I would probably push to take it back or do something better.
Thank you. Ms. Wilcox?
Yes, this topic is hard since we can't talk negatively about certain people, so so I'll try to find something neutral about it. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, and from watching the public hearing meetings, no one, at least I don't know anyone that agreed with the new map, redistricting map. So as someone that is elected in the office, our job is to listen to the people, and no one listened to the people, so obviously I have a problem with that. We should have listened to it, we should have kept it, and again, it's on the voters, no one really voted for it, no one wanted it, yet we were forced into it, and I don't agree with that.
Thank you. The Tarrant County Jail has seen more than 70 deaths since 2017. What is the state and county's role in overseeing jails across Texas, preventing such fatalities, and ensuring transparent jail operations? Ms. Suri, we'll start with you.
Yes. So for the county commissioner level, first, I think until yesterday, we were able to start investigations and look what is going on. Second, we have an issue that most of the people that end up in our jails is because of mental issues. And as I said, we are finding JPS, MHSH, I'm very bad with acronyms. So we are finding a lot of services that should focus in mental health. And why are they not being used? Why are still people with mental issues ending in the jail? Because that ends up in overpopulation. That means that the staff cannot cater to their residents as they should, and we don't have clearly enough oversight. And we need more oversight. We need to investigate what is the root cause, and we need to take action about it.
Thank you. Ms. Wilcox, we'll go with you.
Again, another topic to stay neutral without criticizing someone's hard, because yesterday I was at the monthly Tarrant County Commissioner meeting, and this topic was brought up, and it was shut down as quickly as it was brought up by the commissioners. So it's very disturbing issue. The fact that no one is from our officials willing to really look into it and give people answers is troubling. I mean, I've mentioned quickly my personal experience. A year ago, my ex filed a contempt with court order asking me to be jailed for 2.5 years. And it was in the middle of all of these deaths and people dying in jails. I was scared because I'm like, what is going on? And no one's looking into it. And the possibility of me getting jailed by these, judges was quite high. So someone needs to look into it, that's for sure.
Thank you. And Mr. Wilcox, or sorry, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Well, understaffing, overcrowding is very common in large metropolitan prisons. And there are a variety of reasons that may happen. And unfortunately, when you're understaffed and overpopulated, that does tend to lead to situations that may not have been planned for, some violent and some potentially leading to death. And it's incredibly unfortunate that those situations have occurred. However, it's imperative upon the city and the county to work together to find a solution to ensure that we're keeping these violent criminals behind bars without allowing them back out on the streets, while ensuring that they're given their due process rights and that they are afforded a safe environment. However, they are still in jail, and I can't overlook that some of these violent criminals unfortunately do have mental health issues, and mental health is an ongoing battle that we're fighting across the country, and I think it's important that we continue to focus on providing resources.
Thank you. Across the country, immigration is a key focus right now, affecting federal, state, and county politics. How has your personal experience shaped your thoughts about how immigration policy should be approached? Ms. Wilcox, we'll start with you.
So as I mentioned earlier, I came to this country, how long ago? 1999. Legally, I got my green card. It took about 3 years. It was a very long, excruciating process, from being fingerprinted, all kinds of immunizations. It was a long process. It was so hard at times that I would almost give up. Then I became U.S. citizen. I learned the language. I speak English, and I believe that anyone coming into this country should do it right, just like I did it right. It was not easy, but I did it right. Now my own father is being denied visitor visa to come and visit us. So I have 3 children, 5 stepchildren, and he can't come. They will not give him a visa. I don't just fly him to Mexico and let him jump over the border, because I don't think it's right. So he just doesn't come. It's painful, but we're just not going to be breaking the law just because we want him here.
Thank you. Mr. Morris.
Thank you again. I believe President Trump and Governor Abbott have done an amazing job shutting down our southern border and ensuring that the flood of immigrants that have been coming across our southern border over the last better part a decade plus, that flood has slowed to a trickle. Legal immigration is a very important part of our country. We are a nation of immigrants. We truly are. However, we are also a nation of laws, and you do have to abide by our laws. There is a legal process for a reason. Now, I know that the part of that process can be complicated and long. In fact, I have an employee who recently, she is originally from Ghana, and she just got her citizenship last year, and it was such an amazing thing for her family. And as an employer, getting to celebrate that was that made me very happy and proud for her to see that she came across and she did it the right way. Thank you.
And Ms. Siri.
As a legal immigrant, I oppose the legal influx that we had, and same as Ms. Wilcox. Before this border crisis, I was sponsoring my mother's green card, and by me sponsoring her means that I'm liable for her for life, meaning she cannot ask for government assistance, nothing. If she does, I get the bill. And that got stalled, and even to the point that got cancelled because all of the resources were focused on the people that were coming illegally through the southern border. So I'm all for legal immigration. Maybe the process needs to help be streamlined if we need more people in certain industries or whatever, but it's not okay to allow people to come down from the border. I always say, imagine that you're waiting in line for 10 hours for a place, you're about to enter and 50 people come in front of you and then you don't get to get in. That is what I think of illegal immigration. Thank you.
With the fatal ICE shootings in Minneapolis and elsewhere, more and more communities are fearful of ICE presence and enforcement in their cities and states. If elected, what is your role in addressing those concerns and working with federal authorities? Mr. Morris, we'll start with you.
I believe it's imperative for local and state law enforcement to work with federal law enforcement officers. One, it ensures that there's proper communication and that there's no overstepping and there's no miscommunication. And it also ensures the public safety. If the law enforcement officials are able to work together and coordinate with one another, it creates a much safer situation. But you have to get down to the bottom line on this. And the bottom line is if someone is here illegally and they're a criminal, they're going to get caught. They will be found and they will be sent home. Now, those folks that are not criminals that do get caught up in it, there is a legal process for that to be remedied. And I hope that everyone that witnesses any sort of ICE situation or ICE involvement, stay out of it. Let law enforcement do their job. Their job is hard enough as it is without citizens getting involved and getting in the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm aware that Tarrant County, I think that yesterday they applied for a federal grant to help with the illegals in the area, and I'm not against that because there have been offers from our Secretary of Defense for them to self-deport. They will be getting the plane ticket, they will be getting some money. So if you're entering this country illegally, you refuse to leave, then you should be deported. That being said, for the people that have been here for 20, 30 years, I think that there should be a path to citizenship. But if they have not been paying tax, there should be like a moratorium or something for them to catch up with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one of my best friend's husband is an ICE officer. And he's been doing this for, I think he retired and they called him back in because they need reinforcement, actually up in Michigan. And so I hear the stories that what these agents have to go through and how dangerous their job is already. And I see the federal government and the state governments, they work with each other, they have to work with each other on a lot of different issues, but somehow the ICE officers, the federal and the state now are not allowed to work with each other. So I always believe we can just pick and choose. We either want to work with the federal government or we don't want to work with the federal government. And again, creating these issues only puts a lot of people in danger in unnecessary conflicts.
Thank you. One of the biggest issues in Tarrant County right now is the takeover of 2 local school districts. From city officials to nonprofits, more local leaders are getting involved in local schools. If elected, what is your role in supporting public schools in Tarrant County? Ms. Suri, we'll start with you.
I think that public education is something that has been disregarded by many, and I don't agree with state interference. Normally, it's better to handle things locally, it's more controlled, and you can hold people more accountable, and when it gets to the state level, you lose transparency and you lose access to the decision makers. I think at the county level, we do a lot of agreements with the different cities, and that should be one of the factors. Hey, we need to be sure that you are keeping up with your educational duties. The Texas Constitution says that we shall provide and maintain a public education system, and that has not been happening, so we should be helping for that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Wilcox?
So I still have a child in a public school. She's in 4th grade, and I also worked as a teacher. I was a chemistry teacher and a science teacher. So this is a topic I can talk on about for quite a long time. And everyone's talking about vouchers and financing. We are letting our children down. Our education system, public education system, is really not good. And coming from a different country and looking the way we were taught compared to here, there's a lot of issues, and it's not really funding. Funding, I've seen, for example, the school I work for, the superintendent salary was $600,000. There was 2,500 students, and I didn't have equipment for chemistry lab. So if I looked at her salary, it didn't look like we had funding issue. That's my opinion on that.
Thank you. Mr. Morris?
Thank you. Education is something, public education is constitutional. We are constitutionally charged to provide a quality public education to our children in our state. This is something that we have to do. It's not something that we can ignore and wipe away and just hope someone else will pick up the slack and do it. Our children's future, our state's future, our country's future is too important for us to ignore it. Now, I am not a fan of state government getting involved in local government, as we've seen the TEA take over Fort Worth ISD and Lake Worth ISD. I am not a fan of the government getting involved. However, when school districts continue failing the children, if they're unable to rectify the situation on their own, I am absolutely on board with the state stepping in and saying, if you guys can't do it, we will step in and help you do it. These kids' future and their education is too important. Thank you.
Thank you. What does Taylor Romette's recent win in the Senate District 9 runoff on January 31st tell you about Tarrant County, and will it at all affect how you campaign heading toward November? Ms. Wilcox, we'll start with you.
Again, I can't say anything negative, so let me think. I think if nothing else, we have to think about elections again. And ever since I put my name into the race, I kept saying that we do not have elections anymore. We have selections. At first, I was called crazy, of course. As things processed and whatever was going on with me, trying to get me off the ballot and fighting back, all of a sudden, when I say we have selections, not elections, now I'm not called crazy anymore. We have to let the people decide. We have to have elections again, because once the party starts selecting candidates, like it happened in SD9, this is what happens. People are done, excuse my language, we're not stupid, so people will vote, and whoever will vote, this SD9 showed us we didn't like who they selected for us. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you for the question. It was not the outcome we expected, most definitely. I am 100% confident that the ice storm and the impacts on early voting most definitely played a role in Taylor Romet winning that seat, winning SD9 over Lee Wongans. Now, what does that mean for me? Nothing, because I'm going to continue talking to as many voters as I possibly can. That is my main objective, is to talk to as many voters as I can, to talk about my priorities and my objectives, and that's what I'm going to continue to do, regardless of what happened in SD9. I'm going to continue to get out there and talk to voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that the flip of SD9 shows that people are tired of political polarization. They want Taylor Romet, good or bad. He spoke about issues that people care about, that affect us, the everyday Tarrant County resident. We are tired of focusing on extreme things or social issues, and also I don't think that redistricting helped. I think that redistricting made a lot of people angry because they saw that their voice were not heard, so they were like, as she said, this party I don't feel that is putting candidates or doing actions that represent me, so I'm gonna vote for the Democrat, and that's what happened with many people that I know. So I think that we need to focus, there's like 60% plus that Republicans and Democrats have in common. We need to focus on that first, then we can worry about the nitty gritty of the other 40, 30 that we have different. And I think that Taylor did a platform that could relate with most of Tarrant residents.
Thank you. How would you approach bipartisan collaboration? We'll start with Ms. Suri.
Yes. As I mentioned, there's a lot of people who care about being taxed out of their homes. They care about feeling safe where they live, having funded first responders, police, firemen. They care, like the county is growing, but I don't think that it's growing very organically. We have too many areas where we are creating traffic, the streets are getting all bad, we have floods, our sewage systems get overflowed, and then it's up to the taxpayer to burden that. And that affects our taxes, their cost of living. So I think that we should tackle the issues that affect the most. Mental health, the problem with the jails, that is things that many voters are concerned in both sides. So I will focus more on those issues, the issues that affect most of the population.
Ms. Wilcox?
What the issues, just like you said, it's everyday, we're everyday people. I mean, I pay taxes, everyone does. Property taxes are unaffordable, home insurance is unaffordable, health insurance is unaffordable, food is unaffordable. I mean, you go down car insurance, if you have a teenage driver, you can't afford the car insurance. I don't know where people are paying for any of it. Those are struggles, like we are being priced out of our life. So here comes the American dream. All we can dream about is how we're gonna get more money, and it's not coming. We see the stock market hitting like the highest of the highest, but I don't know, but we ordinary people don't see that. So we have to feel safe and we have to feel that financial security, but right now I haven't really seen any of it. So I think that should be the focus on our ordinary people's struggle daily life.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Well, my main priority in office is public safety. And when it comes to bipartisan participation or working across the aisle, when it comes to public safety, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not a political conversation for me. It is most certainly personal, and I think it rises above politics. So anyone that wants to work with me on keeping our families safe and keeping our community safe, I'll work with them. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Morris, you can keep the mic. How would you approach engaging with constituents across your district?
Thank you. Door knocking is the big one, right? Just getting out there in the community, knocking doors. I'm really very involved with a couple of our Chamber of Commerces, with the HEB Chamber of Commerce and the North Tarrant Chamber of Commerce. I'm a business owner, so my businesses are part of those chambers, and it gets me out in the community quite often, either in participating in chamber events or volunteering. Also, recently I've been spending quite a bit of time at the Haltom City Senior Center, which I absolutely love, getting out and really just socializing with our seniors. That's really my main way to continue connecting with constituents, is to just get out there, to just be present in the community. It makes such a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Suri.
On an official capacity, I would love to host town halls with my precinct and even throughout Tarrant County, because that is an issue that I repeatedly hear from voters, that they don't feel that they're heard. And they are the ones that live here. They need to be aware of the decisions, even understand why we're making certain decisions, or have an input on the decisions. And the redistricting hearings show that people are very eager to speak up and be heard. All of those were filled. So that from an official capacity, Then the same, the Chamber of Commerce to deal with the businesses, different community centers I have been visiting and will continue to visit. But yeah, I think that is about hearing our constituents and seeing what are the issues that matter the most, because we're here to serve them, not the other way around.
Thank you, Ms. Wilcox.
Some maybe a little different. I can be very socially awkward. I'm still I'm comfortable with my accent. So I actually prefer using the modern technology we do have, and I think internet, with the good and the bad, a lot of the good I've been using, especially with my campaign. And I still, anytime I post on the social media and people comment and ask questions, I think to this day I've probably answered more than 90% of any questions that were asked to me. And I think it's easier because most people, just like me, they don't want to, leave their house necessarily or feel comfortable speaking out publicly. But we are in the age where people are more comfortable behind screens and on the phone. So I feel like that's a little bit more accessible to everyone. Of course, I can't answer every question, but it's much easier than asking people to come somewhere to talk.
And Ms. Wilcox, you could keep the mic. The second to last question before your closing remarks. From housing prices to grocery items, affordability is a major concern across the state. What policies would you support to help Texans afford a roof over their heads and food on their tables?
Yeah, that's a tough one because my background is not in economy. Again, I run my house and household on a budget, and I feel that our federal government, but even state, is not doing that. I see so much wastefulness. Like I was mentioning, even schools, everywhere, in healthcare, just waste and waste. And I believe that if we start exposing and looking into all the waste, there will be money left for making sure that we can help people with, for example, not being able to afford healthcare. And just money saved is money earned, but right now we're just wasting money. So that's why we, unfortunately, the people have to pay the price and constantly paying higher and higher because someone's gonna have to pay for the wastefulness.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Well, prices really have just gotten out of control and continue to go up. I know we've started to tame inflation back to a reasonable level. However, prices for household goods, food, entertainment, all of it, the prices continue to go up. Now, is there a silver bullet solution to solve that and get everything back to where it was pre-COVID? No, I don't know that we'll ever be able to go backwards that far. But what we can do is continue to work with the manufacturing companies to drive down prices. We continue to work with the federal government to ensure that those tariffs, the funding from tariffs, is passed along to the states as we were told it would be. And the more we can do to keep money in families' pockets, lowering property taxes is a really good way to go. We can all work together, and we all appreciate having lower property taxes. Working with the appraisal districts to cap their increases that help push our property taxes up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Suri.
So yeah, at the county level, I think that is looking at our spending. Part of my job is looking at very complex processes. My expertise is in aerospace and defense, so I look at very complex processes and I look for redundancy, how we can streamline, how we can reuse this process. Then dealing with contracts, are the bids that we are awarding to the better bidder, to the best we can get financially, or there are maybe to a private donor. I don't know if that is happening. And also, is the lowest bidder bid always the best, or 14 months later we have to have another bid for more money to extend the time of the process? And last, working with the state legislator for a property to be appraised once every 3 years, as the Texas law says, that we should be appraised at least once every 3 years, and being appraised every year, except for last year that I fought very hard for that with other people. And that means that your property taxes in average go up 10% every year if that happens. So that would be.
Thank you. Ms. Wilcox.
Did I already spoke about?
I apologize. Yeah, you did. Okay. I'll open it up to closing thoughts now. You have 90 seconds to just say whatever you want to say and why voters should vote for you in the upcoming primary. Mr. Morris, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you again for Forward's report, the League of Women Voters of Tarrant County and Steer Fort Worth for hosting this. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to face to face with voters, and for those that are online streaming, for those voters, the opportunity to hear from us. We really appreciate it. You know, Texas was founded on the promise of opportunity and safety. That's why I'm running, to ensure that that promise lives on for your family and mine. My name is Kyle Morris. I am asking for your vote and your trust. Thank you, and God bless Texas.
Thank you.
Thank you, and then for having us and for putting it together, and ladies and gentlemen, for taking time to come in and listen to us. So if you want true servant leadership, I have no political aspirations. I have a very nice full-time job that is very fulfilling, but I keep on seeing patterns in our local government that reflect the patterns that I saw back home in my motherland, that resulted in a very corrupted country where people ended up bankrupt, the middle class practically disappearing. So that's why I'm stepping up to serve. I think I'm very savvy. I think I will be great for the job. I have studied the Texas law, locus law, having worked with taxing entities, as I mentioned, with property taxes, looking at election integrity. Is there an issue or not? I cannot tell you, but I think that we need to look at that. The growth in the county, we need to be more proactive. We need to be sure that these developers that come with this new big complex consider the implication of the long term of the growth, and that doesn't fall on taxpayers for us to pay for that. So if you want something different, somebody that will really represent the citizens' best interest and will stand up to the commissioner's court. I'm a moral, righteous woman, so I'm good standing for my beliefs and for what is right, even if that means standing alone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and Ms. Wilcox.
Also, thank you for hosting this event. I'm running because I'm not a politician. When people ask me what are your endorsements, any big endorsements, I don't have any, and I haven't sought any either. So I don't have a single dollar from any establishment, PACs, any companies. The $2,000 I think I'm up is $50 here and there from grassroots voters. So you're not gonna see fancy big signs of mine anywhere because I can't afford them. But I am running because I feel that we keep swinging from right to left. We're here, then we're here every 2 years, every 4 years, and we, the people, don't even know where we're at anymore. From one extreme to another extreme. When I applied through my application and people say, Z, be careful, don't use words like moderate or independent. You can't do that. And I'm like, why not? Why can't we just go in the middle? Why can't we all work together and address the real issues that families are facing? As I said, I've got 3 children, 5 stepchildren, and 2 grandchildren. So I'm invested to this planet, to this life, and life is short. Me and my husband keep saying every day is truly a blessing, and this fighting and this instability just creates misery in life. So I'm running because I am in the middle. I am more of a moderate, and I think that's what we need, and I believe in transparency and accountability.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for participating in the forum and sharing your platforms. We're going to hand it off to my B partner, Cecil Lenzen, and we're going to have a House District 94 forum. We'll take a brief intermission while everybody gets settled, but thank you.
And we cover Fort Worth and Tarrant County together. I'm here today moderating the Texas House District 94 panel. But just before we get started, we'll go back through a couple of housekeeping notes to just refresh everybody. Since we have a couple fewer candidates in this race, we are going to up the time for intro remarks and outro remarks to 2 minutes each, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. And then if you can just make sure to speak into your mic, they're a little, it's floating in and out. But we'll go ahead and get started. Each of you can go ahead and start with your opening remarks if you would like to introduce who you are and why you are running for Texas House District 94.
Ladies first.
Take it away, Ms. Bean.
Should we toss a coin? So I'm Cheryl Bean, and I'm running because I don't like where I see our country going, and I haven't liked it for a while. I'm a product of the late 60s and 70s, and if you look at that time, it was a time of, they said flower children. No, it was a time of chaos, of extreme drugs, of open sex, of war, of rioting, murders in the street, you name it. That was that time. And it took someone like President Reagan to come along after decades to actually clean that up and start over. But I guess we are humans and we never learn our lessons, because here we are back in the same cycle, only it's a little bit louder and a little bit worse, because that has expanded from basically a black-white racial thing to now it's anything and everything from I want to be a dog to, just extreme drugs that kill you immediately, and war all over the world in different forms or fashions. So that's the reason I'm running. I also feel like I'm a strong believer, and God has gifted me with experience that is directly applicable to the issues we are facing today. I wouldn't have thought that when I was walking through, but looking back, that's the case. So I'm at a point in time in my life where my kids are grown, my grandkids are up and running, love them to death. My parents are in their kingdom homes. I have the freedom, I have the resources that I can go do this job, and I feel like it's my duty to give back to society. So that's the reason I am running. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
Hi, my name is Mike Ingraham. I'm running because I love Texas. And I'll be honest, I wasn't born in Texas. We moved to Texas in 1984. My father was a doctor in the Air Force. We'd lived all over the world previously, and we ended up here after he went to his second residency from Ohio. I went to high school at the same high school my daughter went to, my brother went to, my son will go to. Went to the same junior high. All my kids went to the same junior high. I'm a person of the community. I'm not a politician. Everybody says that, they're not a politician. When I say that, I mean I truly had no political ambition. But in talking with my friends and talking with people in the community, I heard the same thing over and over and over again. The system is broken. If you don't have money, you can't run. It's fixed from the start, and no matter what you do, pal, you're not gonna fit in. Oh, and by the way, you're black. I didn't take that for what it was worth. I'm a biracial child raised in a white family. Race was never something that was ever really thrown in my face because I grew up in a military household. But to be told that the politics that are running the nation and running my state might be up against me, I never thought about that. I haven't found that to be true. And I'll be quite honest, I've met some wonderful people on the campaign trail. But they still say, Mike, it's such a dirty business. It's all about money. Partially true. But I want to bring solutions. I want to bring my 26 years of banking and mortgage experience to bear on the problems that we have in Texas. And trust me, we have quite a few. We've got a border issue that's going to pop its little head up again the minute our president changes. We have an affordability issue in Texas that is beyond the pale of what we thought 10 years ago. People are getting kicked out of their houses because they can't afford it. That's unacceptable, and we can do better. Look, I'm all for moderate and working with anyone who's willing to work with me. I'm not about purity testing to see who's going to be the most conservative. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking for the most conservative candidate, that is not me. I am not he is not I. But I want to serve the people of my community. I want to serve the people of Texas, and I want to bring good legislation before them so that they can look back at my time in the office and say he did something for us, and I'm proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And spoiler for the audience, you're going to be asking a lot of the same questions. So if you've been here all night, you've had a little time to think about what you're going to say. But we're going to start off by asking about redistricting at both the state and the county level. There's been much concern about the new voting maps and how they could impact communities of color. What are your thoughts on the new maps at both the county and the state level, and their effect on Tarrant County, and how do you plan to ensure that you are representing all your constituents? Ms. Bean, if you'd like to start.
Well, I started the last one. Okay.
You know, when the redistricting happened, I heard a lot of people were very upset. Even on the Republican side, I heard people were like, "Why are we doing this? This is not the time to be doing this." I understand why it was done. I understand the thought behind it, but I do think it aggravated a lot of the base. As a minority, I can say, you know, what I'm hearing from the minority community is that they did feel marginalized in a lot of areas. You know, I hear that the party that I love, the Republican Party, is being vilified as racist. And to me, that doesn't jive with what I've seen. That doesn't jive with what I know to be true in the base in the Republican Party. I can say this, and I can guarantee this, and I commit this. I realize that 51% is all you need to get into office. There's 49% that didn't vote for you. They deserve to be represented, and I will represent 100% of my constituency. So I think it's going to come back to good, honest leadership, and it won't matter what the demographic is. Color will become irrelevant if you're doing the right thing for your constituents. And they'll see it, and they'll feel it, and they'll know it. And that is more important to me than anything.
I think the most racist thing you can say relative to redistricting is saying just because a neighborhood happens to be mostly one race, therefore you are discriminating against them. That is discrimination. Your color of your skin should not determine how you vote. It should not determine how you think, and it should not determine how a person who's representing thinks of you and works for you. And yet, you know, I think that in this case, that's exactly what people who were screaming were saying. I think that if you look at Tarrant County, it was one of very few that was not redistricted at the 10-year mark. And that's because at that time, Tarrant County was pretty purple, pretty bluish or whatever. But anyway, it shifted, and the distribution or the maps that we had did not reflect that. And so I think that it was time to redistrict. I will stand by that. Even if I didn't know, it is done. We need to work for that, and we need to represent everyone in our district and area. And I don't care what color your skin is. I think we're beyond that. And that shouldn't be a criterion. It shouldn't be an excuse.
Thank you for that. Across the country, we've seen that immigration is a key focus on both party sides, affecting federal, state, and county politics. How has your personal experience shaped your thoughts about how immigration policy should be approached? Mr. Abraham, you can start, and we can just keep rotating back that way unless we want to keep switching back. That's up to y'all.
Okay, all right. So I'm in the construction industry, and I've been in the construction industry for almost 20 years. And I can tell you this, it has been overrun by immigration. When I was in high school, the best job a guy could get, a high school, college age guy could get, was in the construction industry. They could earn the most money, they could do the most things. But what has happened is, over time, it has become, and I just don't know how to say this politically correct, it's almost like the color of your skin determines not whether or not you can work in that industry. And so for 15 years, 20 years now, I have not been able to hire a single African American or a single white guy who's willing to do that work. That's sad. That's very sad to me. And I think that what we experienced in the last 4 years is an overrun and a political decision to do what we've done. I have spent a lot of time at the border. I have personal friends who are National Guard and work down there, and that was a disaster. And it is just ridiculous that we allowed anyone and everyone to come in. I have almost over 30 years in the defense industry where I understand what the rules were, I understand how it's done, and I know what the face of the threat looks like. And we let our worst enemies in. That is wrong. On the other hand, we need to make immigration for people easier who just want to come here legally. You know, we have a company that we bring in experts, and they happen to be from South Africa for the industry that we have. And you know, it costs us $40,000 to $60,000 to get a work visa for them. Meanwhile, we're letting people we don't know come across illegally. So that's kind of how I would sum that up.
Just yesterday, my wife was telling me about a woman that she works with. They're immigrants from Honduras. They're here legally. The mother is here on a visa, and their grandfather had just passed away down in Honduras, or I think it's Honduras. She was driving, the mother was driving, and got pulled over. Luckily, she had her passport with her. She showed it to the officer, and the officer said, "I'm very glad you had your passport, otherwise I would arrest you." They took her passport, as they are allowed to do, and keep her for 48 hours, as they are allowed to do, and let her go. The problem is, this woman's trying to get back to her country to take care of her father who passed away. My wife's friend was distraught because now they've got to rush to get a passport, they've got to rush to do all of this just to go take care of something that simple. I think we can do better. Do not get me wrong. I believe that we should enforce our border laws, 100%. I'm all for legal immigration, 100%. I'm all for doing it the right way, 100%. But once you're here legally, we should also make it easy for you to go back and come back because you've already been here. We know you. We can do better. You know, that's just one story. My son actually has a teacher whose father died in Mexico, and he's too afraid to go back across the border because he's afraid he won't be able to get back, even though he's a legal citizen. Look, whatever it is we're doing right now is making people feel alienated and not wanted in this country, and maybe that's the purpose, but the country I believe in, that's not how we operate. We can find a way to do it better, more efficient, and more humane than we have been, and I'll fight for that.
Thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit more about immigration. You know, with the fatal shootings in Minneapolis and elsewhere across the country, we're seeing more and more communities are fearful of ICE presence and enforcement in their cities and states. If you're elected, how do you see your role in both addressing those concerns and working with federal authorities regarding immigration enforcement?
I grew up in a different time. I was pulled over almost every night that I went home. I was harassed almost every night that I went home. My mother would actually give me an extra 10 minutes because she'd be home at 10. She knew I'd be home at 10:10 because I was going to get stopped. And the police officers didn't believe I lived where I lived, so they would follow me to my neighborhood, which was an affluent neighborhood, and my mom would wave from the front steps. Trust me, I understand being singled out because of one's race. But my mother also told me, if they tell you to jump on one leg and bark like a dog, you better be the best one-legged dog barker there is because they can make your life extremely miserable. Look, I may not like the tactics that some of these ICE officers are using, but as someone who's worked with law enforcement on the federal level in the past, I can tell you, these people are trying to do their job the most efficient, effective way they can, and at the end of the day, their job is to go home. That's it. They want to go home to their families. They want to enforce the laws of the land the way that they need to be enforced, and they want to go home. Nobody wants to break down doors and take some innocent person somewhere that they shouldn't be. That is not our country. That is not what they're trying to do. My job will be to foster a relationship between local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, state law enforcement, put guidelines around how they should operate in each other's areas so that we can make sure that our citizens are protected. Look, whether they're here legally or illegally, they deserve to be treated with respect. That is a common human need that we should serve. But we need to take our law enforcement seriously. I'm not saying give them a pass, but I'm saying we need to definitely handle it in a more humane way, in my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Bean?
So I agree with Michael. We need to treat people with respect. But let's be very clear. Minneapolis is not Texas. You don't see what you see happening in Minneapolis happening in Texas, and there's a reason why. Texas is not a sanctuary state. Tarrant County is not a sanctuary county. And in that vein, the police officers and the sheriffs are cooperating with and supporting ICE. The governor is cooperating with, and they are working collaboratively. They are required to. We have 287G here, and that's what they're doing. That was not the case in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, the governor and the mayor were both telling the police officers and sheriffs, get in their way, cause problems, don't support them, throw them under the bus. And in fact, people think that ICE brought chaos to Minneapolis. I'm here to tell you, I have researched this, I've talked to the sheriff's areas and different things. No, ICE didn't bring chaos. Chaos was there because that state and that city encouraged the worst of the worst to come. And then they got what they asked for, and guess what? They didn't like it. So then the citizens started claiming for help, and we sent people in to help them. That was ICE. Well, then you had mayors and things that objected to that and got in the way and were encouraging the protests. I hope we never see that behavior in Texas. I would not tolerate that behavior in Texas, but quite frankly, I think any man or woman that goes out there, puts their life on the line to protect other citizens, deserves a respect and should be the local government officials and officers to stand behind them. I wouldn't want to do it, and you want to ask me why they're wearing masks? Because people are catching them on national TV, putting them up and posting them, and attacking their children and families. Wouldn't you wear a mask? So I think there's a lot of guilt on the other side, and I don't think, and I will stand in the way of that happening here in Texas.
Continuing that thought just a little bit, how do each of you respond to reports we see across the country of American citizens being shot by federal immigration authorities, and these very confrontational interactions that we're seeing between people who are confirmed to be American citizens and people who are enforcing federal immigration orders? How do you respond to those reports, and how would you, as a state elected official, work to bring the level down and make sure, like each of you are saying, that everyone is treated with respect and humanity? Ms. Bean.
I guess it's my turn to go first, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
There is a lot of rhetoric, and there's a lot of that kind of thing being advertised on TV. In fact, it's really hard not to look at it because it's there 24/7. It never stops. But even in Minneapolis, that was happening in small pockets. And yet, from sitting here, I actually raised the question, how widespread is that? Well, it's not very widespread. It's a few isolated areas. And in every case, even if the person that's being, harmed, well, they're over there trying to run over the police officer and the ICE people. They're disrupting. So, I hate to say this, but I'm going to stand behind law enforcement every single time. And the other thing that people don't realize is, when Obama was president, he actually arrested, and ICE did more deportations than any president before or after. And he was proud of it. And he was on the news frequently saying, look what I've done, I'm cleaning up our country, blah, 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 blah. Now, do we see that kind of reaction now? No, we see the exact opposite, because our news is not news, our news is public opinion, media opinion. So I blame it partially on them, because the more we beef up the rhetoric, the more people get upset, and the more this behavior happens. So I think we always need to respect our officers, and I think if an officer does do something wrong and is proven to do something wrong, they all wear cameras right here. Why do you think they do that? So it's proof of what happened, okay? So, but if they they do something wrong, they should be held accountable. But I would be hard pressed to be an officer of any sort nowadays when they are always presumed guilty before given a chance to explain.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
If the officer tells you to stand on one leg and bark like a dog, let the lawyers in the legal system figure it out. Nothing good comes from a confrontation with law enforcement because one, they have the legal obligation to enforce the law, and two, you have the legal responsibility to obey their commands. If you don't do those two things, they can use force up to and equal to what is required to bring the situation under control. You do not want to be on the receiving end of that. So I would say to those people, when I'm in office, you need to sit down and calm down before you get thrown down. And that's the way it will go. I would also say, I have set up a 1-800 number. Contact me if you need my assistance. I will be more than happy to look into each and every case to ensure that you are treated appropriately as a constituent of my district. Because I do believe that people in the heat of the moment do things they wish they hadn't done. But I also agree that there needs to be oversight. Look, law enforcement is probably, next to parenting, the toughest job that you will ever do and the most thankless job that you will ever do. When 90% of the time, you don't want them unless you need them, and then when you need them, they're not there fast enough. They're so busy dealing with these issues that they can't deal with the true issues that are affecting us. I'm about secure cities, I'm about safe cities, safe schools, safe communities. And so my point would be, I'll help the people that feel like they've been wronged, but I think we need to tone down the rhetoric.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both. One of the biggest issues in Tarrant County right now is the takeover of 2 local school districts. From city officials to nonprofits, more local leaders are getting involved in local schools. If elected, what is your role in supporting public schools in Tarrant County? Mr. Ingram?
My mother was an educator, so I'm passionate about public schools. My son's currently in public schools. The dynamic within the school has shifted from when I was in school to now. My role as a legislator would be to pass legislation that makes our schools safe, gives our students the education they need for the jobs of the future, and prepares them to critically think, which is a skill that's missing, I'm being told, and of course I took by 80% of CEOs from Fortune whatever companies, that critical thinking is a skill that's missing. I say that simply to say that, we can't just throw money at the problem and think that's going to fix our education system. We can't. It's not. In many school systems, the state does need to come in for a short period of time to hit the reset button. Look, if I'm failing at my job, I'm going to get an evaluation. I'm going to either fix it or I'm not. And if I don't, then what happens? I lose my job. Ultimately, the control needs to remain with the municipality, but I do think the state has a right and a requirement, an obligation to come in and say, you're not teaching our students, they're not up to par, they haven't been, you've been given warnings, therefore, we're going to take over for a period of time until we can put a local authority in place to restart this whole thing. To me, that makes sense. To me, that's pragmatic. I don't know what the problem would be with it.
Thank you. Ms. B?
So I also come from a family of educators, my mom and my sister, and I've actually taught it several times on a continuous basis, but except at college and then level. But and I have 3 generations beginning with me at public schools in Tarrant County. My grandchildren are here as well. But for the last 5 years, I've served on a public charter school board, and I'm now currently chairman of that public school charter school board. Charter schools that are public run exactly the same way pretty much as ISDs, but on a fraction of the budget. So, and I've reviewed those budgets for the last 5 years, and this is what I've observed, and I think you all know it. We are throwing more and more money and piling on even more and more regulations and documentation and administration continuously at these teachers and staff. This year alone, in addition to doing school choice, we passed over 120 laws. We're halfway through the year and our school hasn't even been able to get through them all, because guess what? They haven't even issued all of them yet. But every one of them requires additional administrative work. That is ridiculous. And the more, we can't say, well, how you can't fail because you're spending all this money. Well, what do? We have to answer all these questions constantly. Secondly, in every district that I'm working with, which includes Fort Worth, Arlington, Pantego, Del Worthington, HEB, every school there has about 65% of their kids that do not speak English coming in at all grades. Tell me how a teacher is supposed to teach a class math or history or science when 65% of her students don't speak English. That is a serious problem. We are setting our schools up to fail, and we're going to have to make some tough choices to fix it.
Thank you. Looking a little more locally, looking at the Senate District 9 runoff this last month, what does Taylor Remitz win in that runoff tell you about Tarrant County, and will it all affect how you campaign heading toward November? Christine.
One of the things that disappoints me more than anything is the division. And it's not even the division between Republican and Democrat, liberal versus, conservative, whatever it might be. It's within our own parties. We're so busy fighting with one another, we don't talk to one another. And to be perfectly frank, in the business world, you have to get past that and you have to learn to communicate and find solutions. I think that was a classic case. And it was a classic case of the Republican Party that was so stuck on which camp do you fall in, and by golly, if my guy doesn't win, I'm either going to cross to the other side or I'm just going to undervote and not vote, or whatever. Now that's ridiculous. I think that we ought to have, in the past, the Republican Party has been known for this, that we allow conversation and we allow differences of opinions and we should work through it, okay? And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be, sore loser, I'm not going to play anymore, I'm just going to not participate. To me, that was the biggest issue we had, that a good portion didn't show up because they were mad, or they showed up and they voted across the line because they were mad about losing their opponent. In contrast, though, I don't think all voting as a uniparty is right either. Once again, I think we as citizens need to start talking to one another and finding those areas of commonality, and I think there are a lot. And let's build on those. I agree with what Luli said earlier. I'm done.
Thank you.
I agree with Ms. Bean that I think our party, Republican Party, has divided itself. I think we've divided about who's going to be the most conservative, the most far to the right, the most outlandish, versus everyone else. Well, they're rhinos. Well, they're this. Well, they're that. I mean, they give them great names. And to be honest, that turns people off. That's it. Republicans weren't energized by the candidate they had. Democrats were able to energize theirs, and the Republicans were like, you know what? That one's too far. That way or that way. They went and voted against their party. I don't hate them for that, but I do think the message is the key. Look, I want to unify. I want to bring everybody under one umbrella. Granted, there's some things I'm just not going to agree with. Doesn't mean I won't listen. Doesn't mean I can't bring consensus. I may not agree with you 100% of the time, but I can agree with you 80. I bet you we can get 60. At the end of the day, we can sit and talk about our kids and agree that we want our kids to have great community schools. We want great communities for them to grow up in. We want jobs for them when they get older. We want them when they die to be able to leave a little something for their family. We want them to be able to believe whatever they want to believe and live in the world that they want to live in and create the type of world that they want to live in. I think we can all agree on that. Doesn't have to be my way. I want to come up with our way. And look, I'm a Republican, so there's just some things I'm not going to be okay with. But that doesn't mean we can't agree on the meat and potatoes of what makes us Texans and Americans and what's going to bring us forward and not push us back.
Thank you. continue that thought, to each of your points, we've seen a lack of unity within the Republican Party at the county level, but also at higher levels. You know, we hear a lot of, to your point, names labeling, you know, rhinos, moderates, MAGA Republicans, etc. I know you already answered some of this question, Mr. Ingraham, but my question is, how do each of you describe yourselves as Republicans, and how do you see your role in uniting the local Republican Party, particularly when there may be other actors within the party who aren't interested in compromising?
Sure. I've been called a rhino. Okay, I can deal with that. I mean, not easily moved, stubborn. Okay, yeah, I can deal with that. I can be called a rhino. I've been called a moderate. I've been called liberal. I've been called many different things. Look, call me what you want. I don't care. Sticks and stones, break my bones, whatever. At the end of the day, I am going to fight for every single constituent in my district. I'm not here to represent Mike Ingraham and Mike Ingraham's opinion about how conservative he is, or how much of a Republican he is, or how much he donated to so-and-so, or how many endorsements I have. I'm here to represent my constituency. I'm here to be with the people, hear what they have to say, and then go down to Austin to support that. So, you know, I'm new to politics, and the infighting I'm seeing is strictly as a third party, and to be honest, it's kind of, you know, sad. I see people who want to be what they say they are, but then they kind of trash other people to get where they want to be. To me, that's not politics. To me, that's just underhanded, backhanded, you know, low level, whatever. Look, call me what you want. I'm on the Republican ticket. My job is going to be to serve the people of my district the best I know how. I'm going to bring my 26 years of mortgage experience, my 26 years of banking experience, my military experience, my parental experience, and the knowledge from my elders that I received growing up to do the best dang job I can for the people in my district. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Bean?
So you would consider me probably more on the conservative side. But you know what strikes me as odd? If I look, I grew up in a Republican family. I grew up in a very biblical family. And we haven't, I don't see my family and my family values have changed. What I've seen is the world has shifted. And I think Elon Musk said that very, very well. He stood still and everybody has shifted, and now all of a sudden to what was mainstream America in the 60s or 50s or the 70s or 80s even, is now off in the extreme right world, okay? That's not what I think it is. What I see causing as much of a problem, we call it rhino, we call it grassroots, we call it whatever. And what I see happening is there are groups of people that absolutely sell out as politicians. And if you go look at how they are funded, you usually figure out where they lie on that spectrum. And that's a sad situation. I know I'm shifting here, but that's because realistically what bothers me most about Austin and many of the things down here, people start with a set of values that represents their community or what they think their community wants and that they are voted for on by their community. They get to Austin and all of a sudden they get enticed. And all of a sudden they don't have much to think about what is people back home in their district want. And all of a sudden they entered there on modest income and all of a sudden they're millionaires. And guess what? They get a different label. So I am determined to go work with everyone down there. I will keep my biblical values. But you know, we're going to agree on most things with most people. But I'm not going to be owned by anyone who tells me how I have to vote if I want to continue to get that income stream. And that's what I think we should be most concerned about.
Thank you. If you're elected, what would you be looking to do similarly to Representative Tony Tinderholt, who is stepping down to seek a seat on the Commissioner's Court? What would you look to continue from his tenure, and what would you look to improve or do differently than Representative Tinderholt did? Quick reminder, The rules of the forum are no negative comments about anybody in particular.
You just pointed out someone particular.
I think you can answer what you want to do different very positively.
Who's first? Is it me?
Yes.
Is it you? I don't know, I thought.
I think we lost track. Mr. Ingraham, if you want to go next. You know, we're just having such a good time here.
Okay, so I think the way that he became very intimate on the inner workings of the chamber is something I would like to emulate. And by that I mean, you know, there's soft power and there's hard power, right? Soft power is, hey man, let's talk about this over in the corner. Hard power is, you're gonna do it my way. So from what I hear, and these are from people who are in or have been in and worked with him for many years, that was a skill of his that he honed over time that I think I would like to get better at, right? And I think that's important. That's how things really get done, if you want to know. It's not about you come in your first year and suddenly people are going to listen to you. They don't. You're just one of 140, 150 people. And there's some people who've been there for a very long time. And so you've got to find a way to motivate people, to energize people, to get on their side, to get them on your side. And so that's something of his that I think I would like to emulate. Something I think I'd like to get better would be more engagement with the community. I was talking to some people and they said, you know, there was very little, they didn't even know who their representative was. So I don't think your representative should be somebody you have to search out on the internet. I think you should probably know who they are. I think it's somebody who you should be in touch with on a regular basis, either through a newsletter or an email. I think it's something that I think we get better at.
Thank you. Ms. Bean?
So I want to start with a funny story here because I continuously get asked, how can you step in those big feet or big shoes of Tony Tinderholt? Why do you think you can do that? My response is, I have some pretty lethal heels that will take care of business. So, having said that, there are some things that Tony is exceptionally good at, and there's some things that I would like to do differently and improve upon. When he entered the House 12 years ago, he was an oddball. He would lean very conservative with different values from almost everyone else. He was kind of like a one-man show, and learned very quickly that there was no way he could hardly get anything passed because not only was he new, but he was also different. As time has evolved, I think there's been a softening of the ways, partly because of his negotiation skills, but nonetheless, he kind of had this pattern of, I'm going to be more the obstructor than I'm going to be the work it together and build consensus kind of guy. He's gotten much better at that, but that's what I would really like to do. I do think you have to go in there with the ability and decisiveness that comes with that, but I also think that you need to go in and work on building consensus behind the scenes before you get to the floor, before you go to a vote, and hear what other people have to say and work with them like that. That is my goal, and that's what I hope to do. And also the other thing is, you know, he took off work for 6 months prior to being elected that first time and spent 8 to 10 hours every day walking and knocking doors. All right? That was as involved as you could be. But over time, that slacked off. I want to maintain town halls. I want to maintain communication with our people because more than anything else, I am going down to represent the people, and I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you. You both mentioned community engagement as one of the areas you'd like to improve on. Tell us in practical terms what community engagement would look like for you and your office if elected.
It's my turn first.
Yes, Missy.
So I already think I'm doing community engagement, and I'll tell you why. I'm the only candidate out there that's joined every chambers, going to every ribbon cutting, being involved with that, knows every city councilman, every city manager, and every mayor on a first name basis with their cell phone number in my phone. Why? Because I feel like I need to know those people and I need to understand what the city's issues, concerns are. I am a businesswoman, so I am actively involved in that business community. But you won't just see me there. You're going to see me in almost everything that concerns there, because this is my community and this is who I'm going to support. So when I go down there, I think there needs to be at least a once a month, maybe more, type of conversations that go on when you're in office, or when you're down there during session. You can't come home and have town halls in the middle of it, but you can still put out a report quickly or frequently like that. So in addition to town homes, I've already been building a list where I'm seeking experts in various fields in my community to be able to have a ready list of people to call when there's something about a medical bill, or there's something about, a gas bill, or something about whatever it is. No representative can be an expert on everything. They've got to have local experts and people that they talk about. I'm a system engineer by training, spent a long time doing this. And what do we system engineers do? They go out and they look at complex problems, and they understand all the inputs and the outputs and how you get those things to work together and be able to build a consensus. That's what I'm going to do. And the consensus I want to build is not with lobbyists in Austin, it's with the community back here. So that's what I would do.
Thank you.
I'm going to buck the grain here a little bit. I'm going to maybe go a little bit on the other side. I think it's important, as much as I'm allowed, to talk with the opposition. And by opposition, I don't mean enemy. I simply mean Democrats. I'd love to get in front of Democratic groups, or groups that maybe aren't as conservative as I am, to hear their concerns, because those are valid concerns. I think the more that you listen to those concerns, you find that a lot of them are human concerns, and there's maybe some area that we can find common ground there. I've already said before, I'm very big on, my generation is much more touchy-feely. So I'm much better in groups. I'm much better in one-on-one. I'm much better in talking to people in public. I'm much better in those environments. So I already do it. I go to city events. I go to county events. It's just a part of my normal life. I enjoy it. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy walking. I enjoy getting out and talking to people, even when they tell me, I'm a Democrat, you'll never turn me over. It'll never happen. Go away. Okay, I get you. Cool. Don't set your dog on me and we're cool. I mean, we can find common ground. By the way, you have a nice dog. We can find common ground, and that's what I want to do. As far as, meeting constituents when I'm down there, obviously, those days are grueling. So I'm going to have to get technologically savvy, or have a young person help me get technologically savvy, and do what's called a Zoom call. Seriously, though. I think those are great. Zoom town halls, you can get a lot of people in a very short period of time, and I think that's a great way to at least get in front of your constituency, as well as newsletters, as well as regular events where you just bring people in, and maybe it's just a gripe session, right? Tell me everything I'm doing wrong session. I really want to hear it. This is the tell me everything I'm doing right session. I need an ego boost. No, seriously. I need to hear the feedback. We need to hear the feedback.
Thank you. Switching gears a little bit to look at the economy. From housing prices to grocery items, affordability is a major concern across the state. What policies would you support or seek to implement to help Texans afford a roof over their heads and food on their tables?
I am intimately involved in this one. Like I said, I've been in the mortgage industry, real estate industry for 26 years. More specifically, I run an operations group. More specifically, I'm an underwriting specialist, meaning I'm certified in different types of underwriting. What that means is every single loan that goes to a lender, whether it's commercial, consumer, mortgage, is underwritten by someone. They look at every single document, they make determinations based on risk, and then they either give you the money or they don't. I've been doing that for 26 years. Affordability is the biggest issue that I hear. When I started walking, I came up to a house, and this elderly woman was packing up, and I'm like, oh, you're moving? I didn't know you were moving. She's like, I can't afford my house. I said, what do you mean you can't afford your house? It's got to be paid off. No, it's the taxes. I can't afford them. No, you got to have the 65 exemption. It's not enough. My taxes, I can't afford it. My husband passed away. We can do better. We can do better. I've got young people who want to go buy a house. They're both professionals. They both make good money, what I think is good money, but they can't qualify because rates are too high. Look, I have solutions to work with the TDI. You know, one of my endorsements is the Texas Mortgage Bankers Association. It's an organization I've been a member of for many, many, many years. And their main focus is education. That's what they want to do, educate people how to buy a house, when to buy a house, how much you need to buy a house. I'm going to work with them and the TDI to see if we can't, one, get insurance rates down because it was triple over the last 3 years. Two, see how we can cut out the fluff in mortgage so that we can maybe reduce the fees there. And three, work with the appraisal districts to see if we can't reduce the amount that they can increase and then the time frames that they can do that in. Look, your assessed value is not your appraised value. So those are two different things. But I think by bringing that down will also help. I'm also
Thank
done.
you. Ms. Beam?
So 17 years ago, I left big corporate America and started and founded my own design build business. I've grown it from my little office desk to a fairly large company for a small business here locally that I've been running now for basically 17 years. COVID hit, and I was one of the few who led the charge to keep us open. But I will say that at that point in time, prices of materials went up 6x. You would hope they'd go back down. Well, now they're around 3x, and that's as low as they're going. And that's a huge issue. Furthermore, labor has gone up 3x for just an average worker that you do that. And why is that? Well, once again, there's lots of reasons, but one is regulation. You know, simple things like requiring every new house to come along and have an EV charger in it, whether you drive one or not. That's what they tried to pass. We held them off. But that's a $1,500 expense. Wow, that seems like a lot. It is a lot. But the reality of every $1,000 increase in a home knocks out at least 28,000 people in Texas that can afford to buy a home. And that's where we are. If you look at insulation, we've got homes so insulated now that they sweat, and mold is the biggest cottage industry going in that regard. Regulation after regulation, and it's hitting all across the board. So once again, I think we, the government, is actually creating part of this problem. The other thing is big lobbyists and big pharma and all of those are also creating this because it's more important to keep that line and stream going than it is to cure type 2 diabetes or whatever that's out there, and they keep throwing that off. So I think we really need to work on those issues along with things like the property tax. We can go into more detail later, but there's a whole lot there to do. Thank you.
Thank you both. At this time, I'm going to ask each of you to give your closing remarks, which you can use however you want. Each of you are going to get 2 minutes. Ms. Bean, you can start.
So I have 2.
Start the clock over.
Okay.
It's 2 minutes.
3 sounded good to me.
Take it away.
So there's some things that we should say when you look at a candidate, and one is a kind of experience and what they bring. And I'm just going to say in this particular thing, I have by far more business experience than any candidate in this race. I have worked corporate America, and I'm climbed and broken those glass ceilings all around the world, government and, you know, domestic contracts. And I've worked sitting across the table of mom and pop doing their own kitchen design or adding rooms onto it, very much in that regard. I've also have 30 plus years in the defense industry, where my job when I first started was to understand the threats in the world and take very high-tech technologies and tactics to figure out how to resolve those. Ended up being chief engineer on both the F-16 and the F-22 derivatives. So it's a very broad and very deep experience base that no one in this field has. If you want to look and you want to talk education or you want to talk woke agendas, I'm the only candidate that sits in a school board environment where I've had to face those. I've had to fight it. I've had stuff thrown on me. I've had threats personally at me. I've had children or grandchildren in my family attacked on various occasions. I sat there, I fought those fights, and I stood up to it. No one else has done that. If you want to talk property tax, I've already down. Yes, I want to get rid of property taxes, but I also like having first responders and infrastructure and some of the services that cities require. And we're two-legged stool. You can't take away one of the 2 stools and expect us to keep standing. So we need to go beyond the opinions and actually make it, you know, realistic in how we're going to do that successfully. So. Furthermore, if you look at it, I've been involved in politics now, not as a politician, but as a person behind the scenes for the last 10 or 15 years. and the level of endorsements I have at all levels, from local all the way up to national, show that. I arrive in Austin with a team of support and with a team of people that can, like a village raise a child, it takes a team to make anything happen in Austin. So I hope I can get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
I am a simple man. I work a 9-to-5 job. My wife works in the school district. My son goes to the school district. He's in the public schools. You know, I've got 26 years of experience. I wasn't a contractor. I actually signed the paper and served. I've actually been to some of these places that other people talk about. My time in the military showed me that there are real threats in the world that need to be protected against. And that's what I want to do. Look, all I can say is I'm not afraid to get in there and make things happen. I'll work tirelessly to make sure that every single constituent in my district feels at least heard, if not supported. I'll do everything in my power to make HD 94 prosperous, secure, and make jobs for the people that need them. My goal is going to be to reduce our tax burden, not increase it by saying, oh, we'll cut property taxes here, but we'll raise sale taxes over here. We've got to come up with real solutions to these problems. We're going to have a border issue here before long that we're going to need to deal with. I'm talking to sheriffs down on the border about what they need to be prepared for that new influx. Mike, how do you know there's going to be an influx? Because they're telling me there's going to be an influx. You don't wait for a flood to prepare for it. Look, I just want to serve the people of this district the best I can. And you're right, I don't have a master's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in history. But history tells us that those people who have been in politics are of politics, and that ain't me.
Thank you for both coming tonight and sharing your platforms. At this time, we're going to do a super quick shuffle. As we said earlier, as a small non-profit startup, kind of a startup, we're almost 5. We don't have the bandwidth or resources to do all of the races, but what we're doing for the races that we're not able to do a full panel on, if there are any other Republican candidates in the primary in the room, I know at least Robert is here. We're going to invite you to the table, and each of those other candidates is going to get just 2 open minutes to share whatever they'd like to say. All right, Robert. Once everybody gets settled back down, we'll get Reed starting your 2-minute timer, and then take it away. Tell us who you are and why you're running, or whatever else you want to say.
Well, I just want to say thank y'all for hosting this. You know, SteerFW, League of Women Voters, Texas Wesleyan University for facilitating this, and everybody that's involved. Fort Worth Report, Fort Worth Week, everybody that's had anything to do with this. My name is Robert Trevor Bucher. I'm running for Tarrant County Judge, and as you see, we've had a lot of issues with our county judge's seat here lately. You know, Tuesday being the very example of this. You know, reducing our speaking times down. We're already speaking 1 time a month, much less speaking a minute. And so, you know, that's a problem. Already having issues with our voices being suppressed. You know, we're having this with 4 city councils doing this. We're having this with other city councils as well. So, you know, it's time that we have somebody step up that really cares about the Constitution and is people-minded and citizen-minded, and that's me. I really do care about it. I've seen the very things that's happened inside Commissioner's Court. I've been fighting it for 4 years. I started in COVID. That was the very first time that, you know, I really started seeing our rights being chipped away. You know, whether you believe in vaccines, masks, no masks, we all have a right to either wear it, not wear it, take the vaccine, not take the vaccine, and still coexist with each other. And so basically my platform is starting with our constitutional rights not to be stepped on, and y'all be respected. As long as y'all don't threaten nobody in there, you won't have no problems. As long as, you know, you keep it cordial, we'll have no problems. What I mean by cordial is, Let's make sure that we stay on topic the best we can, but as long as you don't violate what the Constitution says or what case law said, we can keep moving forward. Other thing is we need to look at taxes. They can be lower. If we look at the ad valorem tax that they don't want y'all to know about, that's line item taxing. If you've got a pool, if you've got a shed, you've got something on there, they start getting you for your house. That's different, separate from property taxes. Now we need to look at tax abatement. If we have businesses coming in here, yes, we need to compete, but we don't need to give it away like we have to Facebook and we gave it away to Amazon. You know, so what happens there is like no matter how much you work, they're gonna chip away at your check. And so we do less. And so there's a lot more that's not being spoken about. So I mean, I can say, you know, everything about tax abatement and all that, but just if y'all wanna go speak to me, I'll be here after. Robert Trevor Beaker for Tarrant County Judge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're gonna close out tonight with just a couple of quick reminders. Oh, I'm so sorry. Get her up here.
Can I just sit down or do I need Kathy first?
You're on the Republican ballot for March 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah, no, sit down, please. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Reed, can we start the clock?
Yes. My name is Donna Collins. I am running for Republican Precinct Chair. I live in Arlington Heights, and I am being challenged. As I sat here tonight, I have gotten the second text that has come out against me into my precinct. I just got a mailer in the mail today that came out against me. Somebody is backing this person that had filed on the very last day to come against me, and I don't know who it is, but there's big bucks there if they're mailing flyers and doing precinct level text blast. So I'm very concerned. The Republicans need to stick together. We do not need this infighting. I do not need another Republican coming against me trying to imply that he is a better precinct chair than me when nobody that I know in the whole GOP has ever heard of this guy. They know me, I've been around, I've been a precinct chair in the past, I'm very active in the voting process, I work the polls during voting, early voting, I am on the ballot board, I am very active with the GOP. Donna Collins, precinct 4016, thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. And at this time, we're going to close out with a couple of quick early voting reminders. Thank you again, everybody, for coming and participating tonight. Early voting for the March primaries opens next week and runs from February 17th to February 27th. Election day is March 3rd, and our Tarrant County voter guide will be live sometime next week, so I invite you to all please check it out. And now I'm going to hand this off to Mike to wrap this all up.
All right, great job, Cecil, and great job, Drew, under alert panels, good job. Again, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and being part of this. Special thanks to SteerFW and League of Women Voters of Tarrant County. As we said earlier, informed voters make empowered voters, so we really appreciate it. And again, remember, same place, same time, tomorrow night, for the Democratic side of it. So everybody have a great evening. Thank you again for coming out.